everyone doing? My name is Chris Gardner. I'm a senior writer with the Hollywood Reporter, and I'm really honored to be here tonight to moderate a conversation with Will and Noah. We're both here tonight for a very memorable Monday night, so please help me welcome the stars and producers of this movie, Will Poulter and Noah Centineo.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Everybody.
Check.
Check.
Gentlemen, thank you for doing this. And also, thank you for doing this, but it's an honor for me to be here and have this conversation with you because I know how much this movie means to both of you. You wouldn't be here on Monday night if it didn't. And I wanted to start first by, I know enough about the both of you, and I've read so many of your interviews, and I know that you guys are both guided by two of the same things when you decide what to do, a director and the material. And with this one, you had a really great proof of concept in a short film that Adam did that went to Berlin. Will, you told me that it stole a piece of your heart when you first watched it. I want to hear from both of you. When you first saw it, or Adam first approached you about this, tell me what was your response?
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris, also for doing this. It means a lot to us that you supported it the way that you have. And thanks everyone for coming out on it. It's yeah, you know, in making Union County the short film, and certainly in writing the screenplay for the feature, I think Adam captured something that was really hard to ignore. I think, you know, I'll let my bro speak to this as well, but, you know, what Adam did and was seeking to do, you know, in the expansion from short to feature was capture something on the subject of addiction and recovery that provided a sort of counter-narrative to what we often see in respect to this subject matter in TV and film. I think there is sometimes a tendency in the interest of creating something entertaining or dramatic or theatrical to dwell on the negatives and the things that are a reality, right? The devastation that certainly you know, substance use disorder can cause, and particularly as it relates to the opioid epidemic, which was something of an inspiration for this story. But Adam's goal, I think, was to focus on this incredible program that was just in itself going against the grain of that narrative. It was characterized by people getting back on their feet. It was about progress. It was about hope. And this program has a success rate of over 50%. And so I think seeing a short film that celebrated that and a screenplay that sought to kind of expand on it and provide people with a closer, more humanizing look at that work and at the folks involved in it was too good of an opportunity to turn down. Yeah.
I think Will said, bro.
Bro.
I love it when he says bro. Thanks, bro. Yeah, from the short film, it was super clear that Adam has an unflinching perspective and willingness to tell the story the way that he thinks it should be told, which we're just lucky is from the POV of reverence and empathy and compassion and understanding. And I think that personally speaking, when I watched the short film, it was just abundantly clear that he was a voice that was a voice that I wanted to help amplify and be a part of however I could help.
And it asks a lot of you guys as actors to navigate a world in a movie set with people who are not trained actors. So tell me what those challenges were like and what it was like to work with the people that you got to share scenes with.
I've got to say, I wish Annette Dio was here because we've been on the road with Annette throughout Ohio the last couple of weeks and in New York. Annette Dio is the real life director of the recovery program that you saw. She plays a version of herself. The reason Annette can't be here is because Annette was in court today doing her day job. And she jokes she shoots a sequel to Union County every Monday. She's not shy to remind Nora and I she goes, I have a day job, you know. I know. She's phenomenal, and I think really there was no doing this if it weren't for Annette sort of opening up the doors to us. And I think that Adam earned that trust through a sincere and earnest effort to amplify this program and also make the film in collaboration with the community as opposed to about. And there's a distinct difference. You know, you can tell when someone is in the entertainment industry and they're, you know, sort of almost descending or invading on a community to extract information and kind of take it elsewhere. And that was never the goal. And indeed, you know, in the process of sort of, I think, intertwining our fictional characters with the real life participants, top of mind was not infringing on the process of recovery for the participants. So what did that look like? There was a voluntary process by which whenever we were in one of the spaces, be it a meeting or be it a call, you know, anyone at any time could sort of volunteer not to be filmed.
Maybe if I could just
Please.
really quick interject, it's important to note that this movie is half documentary, or quarter documentary, half fiction. And so when Will's speaking about how it's a voluntary thing for participants in the actual program to be on camera, that means that, like he said, Annette today on Monday was in court, the same court that you all looked at, with I think some of the same participants that you see in the movie. And so since the court date is Monday, when we had to shoot court scenes, we would shoot them on Monday. And when he says voluntary, it's the participants that did not want to be on camera would go into the courtroom first. They would have their hearings, their lives would change. They'd come out, they'd go. And then those that wanted to be, or were comfortable being filmed, they would set the cameras, roll the cameras, say action. We would all come into the courtroom. And it was court, like normal for all the participants. So me and Will would be sitting in the courtroom. We wouldn't know when we were going to be called up. And so it was real life happening until we heard Cody Parsons or Jack. And so then suddenly now the actual court proceedings would pause. The movie would start being filmed. And we'd get in there, we'd do our scene, and we'd sit back down, and then court would resume. So it's important to note it's the same thing with the meetings that you watched when Will was portraying Cody in those NA meetings. Those were real meetings. The takes were an hour and a half each.
Wow.
And participants were going around speaking, and there were cameras in there, and yet Adam was saying, it was a real meeting. That's just important to note here, the strategy that Adam put into place.
True, and a cool process, because what that meant is that Adam didn't want to burden or add to the challenge for real participants by sort of saying to them, "Oh, can you perform this fictionalized beat for us?" You know, or even go full documentary and sort of follow folks around, kind of looking for a dramatic moment or a narrative twist. In this way, I think he allowed the fictional characters to become kind of eyes and ears for the audience, so that, you know, audiences hopefully could experience sort of an authentic feeling of what it is to kind of walk through the program with these participants who are better placed than us to, you know, speak with lived experience to, you know, what the path of recovery looks like.
That's incredible, because the level of trust required to be allowed in those spaces is pretty tremendous. I know you built that over a number of years before you guys arrived, but tell me just in terms of like crafting your performances and working with that material, how that being that you're surrounded in that community, how that impacts your performance. Does it make it more easier, more difficult?
We were really lucky to go out like well in advance, right, like 7 or 8 months before we started shooting, to sort of meet members of the community, both service providers like Annette and her team, and then participants, and that was, you know, such an amazing opportunity. It's interesting. I feel like I'm in like a very safe space, and it's very cool independent theatre. Like films that
With
aren't
very cool people.
with very cool people. There aren't necessarily the same things sort of prioritized when it comes to like bigger budget films, which I still can't make sense of. And I think maybe the reasoning we've sort of settled on is that when you are constrained by time and finances, you can't help but be sort of forced in a way to prioritize the things that really matter, which is the quality of the story and you know the the means by which you're kind of approaching character, etc., etc. So we got to do that like very early on, spent a lot of time in the community with folks ahead of time, which was invaluable. And I think what that meant is that when we arrived on set and came to shooting, we sort of committed to characters that we kind of like fleshed out and we'd spoken about a lot and were very much informed by the contributions of the participants, which were very generous. And then it became about just kind of immersing what was a very real environment. Like, there were very few reminders of the fact that we were on a film set. You know, we were light-footed and we were trying not to intrude, so there weren't that many lighting rigs and there wasn't that much camera equipment around. And honestly, we tried to leave a kind of minimal footprint as much as possible. So that reduced the acting challenge in a way, and that made it more real, I think, for us. Yeah.
That's extremely accurate.
I want to take advantage of the fact that I have the two of you guys together on a stage. I know, Noah, you've been doing a little bit of this over the weekend, and I got to talk to Will about this movie ahead of time, but I never got to talk to the two of you guys together, and I would love just to bro down a little bit more about this bond, because it is such a remarkable piece of the film. Even if Noah isn't in it, spoiler, as you guys know, he's not in it. And, it's heartbreaking when you leave, and it's a testament to your talent and the performance you give that your void is felt to the rest of the movie, both in its absence, but in the way that Will acts and responds throughout the rest of the movie. But you guys worked together on something before this, and the brotherhood was very strong in that movie, Warfare. I'm just curious if you would talk a little bit about your relationship with each other, for how that started on that movie and continued here, how you guys worked with one another, and also, I'm already throwing a lot at you. And then lastly, why you decided to do more than just act in this movie and continue on as, producer and executive producer, and still out here promoting it. I'm going to stop now.
We'll separate those two, because
Yeah,
I'm
let's
going to forget
separate.
about the second half of that for sure. I promise you, I'm like a goldfish with my memory. But I will take this opportunity to speak about Will and his constitution and his character on Warfare. We spent about 8.5 weeks together. The first 4 of those weeks we did the math, about 17 hours every single day with each other. Will, in that film, represented the officer in charge of our platoon. That was his character. But more than that, that became art imitating life, life imitating art. Will was our officer in charge on set, off set, during training, during meals. It was my first time meeting him, and I gotta say, his dedication not only to his craft and his responsibilities of an actor on set, but his dedication to Ray's story, Ray Mendoza's story, his dedication to having us feel supported, his dedication to keeping us in check and accountable, when that's really our job. He had a nickname that was quite paternal. I won't say it, but it was quite paternal, and there's a reason for that. He was our older brother in every single respect, and the best older brother that you could ask for. And so coming off of that experience into this, where he is my older brother, albeit a foster brother, but still, like you say in the movie, not much of a difference at all. It was so easy, because that was not acting. That was genuine.
I feel exactly the same way when Adam told me that Noah was potentially going to play Jack. I said I already love it. And I think I'm really glad you said what you said, because the sustain of Noah's performance throughout the film, after he's no longer around, is felt, I think, by everybody. It was felt every day on set. He brought such an infectious and authentic charisma to Jack that we genuinely missed him when he had to go. And we shot a lot of stuff in the first couple of weeks of what was effectively like a 4 or 5 week shoot, and the impression that Noah left on all of us with his dedication to his craft and I think to what is ultimately like much bigger than the film. The message of this story and the program that is at the center of it. He was phenomenal, and like playing his brother was made very, very easy.
A round of applause for the compliment. I know that Will, for one, doesn't like compliments.
He hates him.
Yeah,
I love it.
You're great. You're really wonderful.
Dude, you're in every single moment of this film.
Oh no, we're done with comments.
You've never had an experience like that, right? Where you're in every single shot, every single scene.
No, I haven't. Yeah.
And can I ask you a really actory question, which I know is a bad question. I'm just going to cross that in advance. I hate when people say, like, how did you do that? You know, like, I'm an actor. But when I found the scene so profound when he passes and you're really emotional, and I think I like so many people in the theater at Sundance were crying at that moment. How did you do that?
Honestly, the only way I know how to do that, if I'm being completely honest, is like root it in sort of authenticity, and I genuinely mean this. It's not like resorting back to, you're not going to see two actors just compliment each other all evening, that's exhausting. But you would really genuinely love somebody, and you have that bond with them, you play the reality of that. I didn't have to sort of invent this idea that I, as Cody, cared for Jack at that point. Like I really sincerely did, and then you're also alongside Emily Mead, who's phenomenal and makes everything feel incredibly real. So so much of Union County kind of set everyone up for success in the sense that it felt so much less like a film set and so much more like real life, and it felt so immersive, and we were so fortunate to have that experience that, as I say, I think the acting challenge was reduced in a lot of ways, and it was just about kind of trust falling, and kind of submitting to that realistic environment, and that was definitely one such scene. But again, if it weren't for the strength of Noah's performance and just how likable, lovable Jack is, it would have been much harder to do.
Quickly too, we talk about this. We talk about this a lot. Adam Meek's strategy for getting us there 2 weeks or 7 months earlier, first to meet some community members, and then 2 weeks before to kind of live there and drive around and talk about it and go to different 12-step meetings and sit down with the participants and get the opportunity to interview them, to ask them questions about their life. We sat with them for hours, and they were so brave, so courageous to open up their vulnerabilities, their traumas, and their life stories, and tell us everything about them so that we could then pull this information and craft these two characters that you guys see on screen. And so another piece of it is because we had these people that were so willing to share their lives with us that there wasn't much invention.
You mentioned how so many of substance abuse or addiction, focused films and TV content are usually focused on a lot of the negative outcomes and a lot of the more salacious outcomes. Through other films and TV shows, even Dope Sick, which you starred in, the audiences have gotten an education on the opioid epidemic, but not so many people have seen the inside of rooms in such an authentic way, and the inside of a drug court in such an authentic way. And I'm just curious, because you guys spend so much time in this place, what did you learn about recovery or addiction that you didn't know before?
Yeah, worth mentioning that the core system that you see, for anyone not familiar, it's part of a sort of broader set of core systems that are called problem-solving cores. There's about 4,000 across America, all dealing with sort of different things, but supporting people in a kind of holistic, kind of similar fashion. It's about 250 in Ohio, and as I said before, the success rate of this program is over 50%. So we compare that to some of the more kind of punitive, criminalizing responses that aren't as empathic and humanizing. It becomes an obvious choice to me. I think that in respect of, what I learned from spending time in the rooms and walking the spaces and getting to kind of be, so intimate with members of the community, both participants and on the side of service providers, was that, of course, substance use and the relationship to substances is a huge part of what is spoken about and the challenge. But actually, when you spend time in the rooms in conversation with folks and listening to people, you realize that more frequently people are talking about the things that the stigma actually doesn't allow us to appreciate. As soon as someone has the label of addict placed on them, we no longer extend the kind of humanity or compassion or level of understanding that we would to anybody else. When you sit in rooms and you hear, folks share, they're talking about things that we can all relate to, whether we've been identified as an addict or if we have a substance use disorder or not. People are talking about mom, dad, sister, brother, house, transport, work, travel. It's stuff that is kind of very normal, mundane, and day to day as far as the human experience is concerned. So that's what the stigma does, and you realize when you spend time in this space how kind of asphyxiating that stigma is. And I'm going to quote an NPO because it's always a good time to quote an NPO. And Annette has this amazing analogy, and she speaks about the fact that if you were at home and you had a family member who was going through treatment for a disease like cancer, or maybe they had a really, really, big surgery, you might expect to receive a casserole from your neighbor. That neighbor might come over and say, hey, let me know if I can do anything for you. But if you have a family member upstairs who just come back from rehab, are you expecting to get a casserole from that neighbor? And I think that presents the challenge to a lot of us, which is that we have to start reframing how we view addiction and extending that empathy and that compassion that we would to anybody else in that situation.
And that, great words of wisdom, but no, I want to hear, thank you. No, I want to hear from you what you learned about addiction or recovery that you didn't know before.
I think something that really struck me is it doesn't take an incredible leader or an overwhelming amount of resources to pull someone out of the darkest places of their lives. It really just takes a person that's willing to extend a hand. You don't need a big room. It's decorated nicely with people that have been in the program for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You need someone that's sober and been working it to sit down at a table and talk to you. That could be a folding table, folding chairs, or that could be, something really nice. And no matter what matters is the connection. What I've heard a bunch of times with you guys is the opposite of addiction is connection. And that has been made abundantly clear to me.
That's so true. These are heavy days filming this, heavy questions about filming this. I'm just curious, how did you decompress after a long day while working, and did the same sort of tricks of the trade work on this movie that you did on other movies?
I mean, the recovery space is so celebratory. I think you see kind of like signs of that, but the judge, Annette, and so many members of the team are so sort of encouraging, and so much of the time spent in the recovery space is characterized by celebrating the wins, kind of acknowledging the small steps, the marks of progress. So it was a really fun place to be around.
Everybody was hella excited too.
Yeah, there was a lot of enthusiasm for the fact that we were all doing this thing together. And then, we spent a lot of time together, decompressing at the end of the day, and time spent with each other was a great kind of antidote to things that are getting heavy, I think.
I think so. I think it's what he just said. Like at the end of the day, if it was a really heavy day and maybe we needed a moment, we would just kind of say, I love you, good night, and go home. And sometimes we say, should we want to sit for a little bit? We just kind of sit. Maybe kind of cold, chilly, late at night, Bell Fountain, and we just kind of sit there.
Also, people in Ohio are so friendly.
Yeah.
Like, people are so nice. You've got the combination of like Midwestern kindness with Southern hospitality, and it's a hell of a combination.
Nice. Tell me about what it was like to be in Iowa for these screenings and Q&As recently, because you guys did a little mini Ohio tour.
We did 5 days in Ohio, didn't we? So, Cleveland, Dayton, Akron, Cincinnati, Columbus. It was amazing. And to see, I think, the combination of sort of Midwest pride paired with, just the fact that I think a lot of folks are a few degrees, if at all, away from the issue that was being kind of like centralized and really meaningful to interact with people who work in the sector or have had family members or loved ones affected by substance use disorder, and meant a lot to bring it out to Ohio, and then honestly to see, I think, people experience the Annette Dio factor was also very cool. She's an earth angel, and not to be able to have for granted, but to see people experience Annette for the first time was pretty cool. Yeah.
And Noah, you've been here in LA doing a lot of these Q&As, and obviously we found an audience at Sundance, it found a home after Sundance, so I'm sure people have been coming up to you and sharing their experiences. What's been the sort of the sentiment or any surprising interactions you've had with audience members throughout this process?
I think Will has shared this experience with me by maybe other audience members and their names in other places, which is kind of a testament to how pervasive this problem is, how proliferated it is. But when someone says, thank you for making this film, I know I grew up with people just like you and Cody, you, Jack and Cody. I know people that have gone through this system. Someone said we like to say it's 6 degrees of separation. It's not. Oftentimes it's 3. I think our goal was to get out of the way of Adam's microscope as it kind of shined light and zoomed in on this community and Annette's work in that community. And to hear people say, thank you, and I know those people. I think that's probably the greatest takeaway for me. Is I think maybe we did actually get out of the way.
I think the best job of a moderator is to ask the questions and get out of the way, but I'll just say that I'm one of 3. I'm a drug addict and alcoholic, and I've been in recovery 16 years, and this movie, thank you. Part of the reason why I say this is that I got to chat with Will at Sundance, and I just am a big fan of Noah, and I just think what you guys did here is really remarkable. And I hate to use the word important movie, but because it's just a really beautiful human story, and all human stories are important, but you guys just did a remarkable job. And I've sat in those rooms, and I've lost brothers and friends who've been in drug court, and I've lost a lot of friends over those 16 years, so just, bravo to both of you. More bro downs, because it's important, so thank you guys so much for what you did. I think we're going to do 2 audience questions, but I'm going to be a little bossy. I'm just going to ask that, because I know these guys have a lot of really brilliant work on their resumes. We could just keep the questions to the film and the drug court or anything involving Union County. That would be great.
And if I may as well, before we get to the questions, just wanted to draw people's attention to that website, unioncounty.net. If you are interested in any of the resources, we partnered with some great organizations. If you're looking for more information or ways to potentially support, so we should head to that. And then also at the end, me and Noah will stand up if you all want to take a photo and share the word. We'd appreciate it as extended members of our marketing team. So yeah, before we get into questions, actually.
Yeah, let's go right back here. Yeah, hi.
I think this might be a little personal, so you can ask this too much, but I think that this film shows that there's a lot of directions life can take people. There's a lot of outcomes that can happen. And were there any moments of real joy or real heartbreak that you guys experienced being part of this community?
Repeat the question.
She was asking whether or not this movie, if they experience any joy or heartbreak while filming the movie, because it deals with so many real human experiences. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, there were like 4 words, but yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like the closest thing I felt to heartbreak was in, contending with the idea of losing like a family member to substance use disorder, like that being kind of, even just in simulation to that experience was certainly heartbreaking, so I can only imagine what it's like in reality, Joy, there were many, quite honestly. One of the coolest experiences from this film was to come back a year later, and we did a screening for the participants in the program, and we had like a premiere of Belfountain, and it coincided with the year's graduation. And what was really cool, was to see folks in the film who were talking about challenges that they were facing, hopes they have, things that were an obstacle to them sort of progressing, and then seeing those same folks graduate exactly a year later at the premiere of their own film, and whether it was being fearful about how an employment background check may go, seeing that person employed as writing their job, someone talking about being estranged from their children and wondering if they'll get an opportunity to reconnect with them, seeing them with their children at that graduation, like it's a testimony to how amazing this program is and the fact that, it works if you work it.
And that's real joy. Let's go here, and then we'll go to you.
My question is about working on a smaller budget film like this, and still, how do you, working with the director and everything like that, with the DP, to get those beautiful shots? Because there's some incredible naturalistic shots, like especially during the night scenes. That car crash scene is gorgeous looking and really like trippy, and just like the sound design and everything. How did you guys work on that, not just as actors but as producers and stuff?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, she's doing my job for me. It was a great question about the car crash scene and working with a smaller budget. How did they film that? And there were more words, but just visual effects and the sound design were really great. And so I think there was a Marvel VFX team that worked on this.
Pick up if I.
Oh yeah, well, ditto,
We got to look to Adam and Stefan. Stefan is our director of photography. On a small budget like this, there's not a lot of time to make mistakes, and if you don't get your day, you're not going to go back and try to get it later, unless something else is going to have to get it. And so there's a lot of preparation, and that is tireless work by not just Adam and Stefan, but our producers. Countless hours of speaking with locations and speaking with HODs, and just really keep making sure the ship is tight. And also a little bit of luck, genuinely. The camera, when it goes forward, when it hits the tree, that was not supposed to happen. The sun was going down and fast, and we did not have a lot of time, and we've been filming all day, and they had to do a reset with the camera to make sure that the camera was in the right place with the car, take the camera off from the side of the door and put it in the back seat. It was a clusterfuck, dude. It was a dumpster fire, but you know what? That's filmmaking. No matter what the size of the budget, every single day is a dumpster fire. And it's true, and what really matters is the team that you build. And so whether it's a massive, spectacle quadrant for, 4-quadrant temple film, or it's an incredible indie for sub 2, you need a team, and you need people that care and love it and will do anything for it and are willing to just move their asses when it's time to move their asses. So.
Great question so far, great answers, you guys, and we'll go over
So
here.
far.
Let's keep it going. It's too late, to let it go.
Beautiful, beautiful film. Nicely done. My question is about the people who are not actors, like Annette and then the judge. Did they have lines, like the judge, did he have lines, or was he responding to the two of you doing such a good job and being authentic? Like, to actually respond. And then Annette, the other question is, Annette, in the telephone call with you, she obviously had lines that were given to her. I mean, she had so much depth in her acting. Like, there was so much depth and so much to pull from. So it didn't feel like acting. So I guess my question is about those moments.
She said, beautiful movie. And then she asked a great question about the non-actors, specifically Annette and the judge, whether they had lines or whether they were actually just responding as they would normally in the scenes. And then she said that specifically the phone call with Annette was amazing. How did she do that?
I'm glad you identified that, because I think Annette's performance and the judge's performance is phenomenal. What they were both able to do so incredibly well is their everyday job, but then seamlessly transition into scripted material. So when we're shooting a court scene, for example, they are doing their everyday job and they are kind of adhering to the docket as it requires them to do. And then when they call up Jack Parsons or Cody Parsons to the stand, the judge will be switching into scripted material, as would Annette, which is amazing. And then in the case of the phone call, that phone call was also scripted. Annette is also so good that if you want to improvise with Annette, she can pivot and improvise very easily too, better than I can as well, I learn. And I will also say Annette won't mind me sharing that that's a phone call she's had multiple times. Annette is, I think, really relying on lived experience in order to provide the depth that you saw. She is incredible in that regard. And when we shot that scene, it was 2 a.m. in the morning, and we were in a field, and I was, in the car. Annette really, in typical Annette form, stayed up until 2 a.m. and she was in that chair in her house on the other side of the phone doing that scene with me. She must have done it 8 times in a row, so yeah, she's unbelievable.
She also has a degree.
Yeah.
For real, yeah. She revealed that to Adam later.
39 years as a therapist, 22 years in the court system, and prior to starting as a therapist, she studied acting.
How about one more to the road? One more to the road.
I have a question to Will. So I saw this film last night. I'm seeing it again tonight. And there's one scene that I can't stop thinking about. When you're writing the letter, is that how you actually
This is not the first
Yeah. My mom saw the film a couple of weeks ago. She was like, "Sweetie, I thought we fixed that." So I actually had, this is not me getting serious, I promise, but I was diagnosed with dyspraxia at school, which, oh, no, you didn't know. I didn't type those things down here. I had dyspraxia at school, and so that manifested in a number of different ways. It's kind of adjacent to dyslexia, but I did hold a pen like that as a kid, and it kind of got corrected out of me. So I had a learning support department in my school that taught me how to write in a different way. And my thinking behind that was that Cody wouldn't have likely not have had that experience, particularly in the foster care system, wouldn't have had that kind of learning support, and so I held the pen that way. It's been noticed by a few school teachers, my mom and yourself. So it's just like a character detail, but again, like based in reality. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question for you about that. When you decided to do that, were you like, "Oh, this is good, people are totally gonna Or were you like,
Honestly, this is for me. I thought Adam was going to go, "What are you doing?" Well, I probably did. But I also just want to say thank you so much. So appreciate your support of this film, the fact that you were able to lend personal experience to your reception of it, and it means a heck of a lot to us and to the wider team that you gave a good time to support it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, that was so nice. I like to just get out of the way as much as possible, but I couldn't help myself. It's such So a round of applause for Noah and Will.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
And a round of applause for you guys for being here.
So,